Once upon a time, there was a king who ruled a peaceful kingdom. He loved his people and did everything he could to keep the land happy and safe. The king had a wise minister who was known for his clever advice. The minister's wisdom helped the king make good decisions. The king trusted the minister completely and valued his guidance above all else. One afternoon, as the king sat in his garden, the minister said with a smile,
"Your Majesty, if your crown gets any bigger, we will need servants to lift it."
The king laughed loudly, his eyes sparkling. The courtiers laughed too.
"You are indeed very clever,"
the king said, still smiling. One day, the minister joked,
"Your Majesty, your decisions are so complicated. They are like a lost path. We might need a map to find our way."
The king's face turned red with anger.
"Enough!"
he shouted, his voice echoing through the hall. The courtiers froze, afraid of what might happen next. The minister quickly bowed, realizing his mistake.
"How dare you joke about my decisions?"
his voice booming through the room. The courtiers quickly stepped back, afraid of his rage.
"Leave the capital at once! I don't want to see you here again."
The minister stood frozen, his heart sinking. But he bowed low and left without a word. The minister returned home, his face filled with sorrow.
"The king has ordered me to leave the capital,"
he told his wife quietly.
"You and the children will live here. But I have to go."
His wife's eyes filled with worry, and tears welled up in them. But she nodded, saying nothing. The children rushed over and hugged him, not fully understanding. With a heavy heart, the minister kissed them. With a final look at his family, he said, "Goodbye," and walked away, leaving the home he loved. The minister arrived at his cousin Johnson's house in the small, beautiful village. Johnson greeted him with a big smile, saying,
"It's so good to see you."
"I'm here to visit and stay with you,"
the minister replied. Lisa, his wife, welcomed him warmly. And the children, Ariana and Johnny, ran over to greet him.
"Welcome, Uncle,"
Ariana said happily. Lisa quickly went to make tea and snacks for him, while the children helped set the table. Johnson had a cattle farm in the village. Every morning, he carefully fed his cows, making sure they were healthy and strong. He collected the milk and made fresh dairy products. which he sold to the villagers. The community relied on his farm for their daily needs. One early morning, the minister woke up, took a quick bath, and put on neat clothes. Shortly after, Johnson woke up, took his bath, and got dressed. Just then, the kids washed up and got ready for school, one by one. In the kitchen, Lisa was busy preparing breakfast. She boiled water, adding 7 teaspoons of tea leaves and a full cup of milk. Then poured in 8 teaspoons of sugar and stirred it well. As the tea brewed, she toasted bread slices in a pan with a little oil. She placed yogurt in a bowl, took out butter and honey in separate bowls, and boiled eggs in a pot. Once boiled, she peeled and sliced the eggs, adding black pepper and salt to flavor them. Finally, she poured the tea into 5 cups. Then placed a mat on the lounge floor and served the breakfast. They sat together on the mat and enjoyed their breakfast. The minister smiled as the kids ate and talked with Johnson.
This breakfast is wonderful, Lisa,
the minister said, sipping his tea.
Thank you,
Lisa replied, smiling. After they finished, the kids packed their bags and hurried off to school, waving goodbye. Johnson and the minister walked to the cattle farm next to the house. Johnson fed the cows grass, and the minister helped him by sucking the milk into buckets. Afterward, they gave the cows water to drink. They worked quietly together, enjoying the peaceful morning. Johnson poured the milk into big pots and placed them on the stove to heat.
We need to heat this slowly, so it doesn't burn,
he explained to the minister. After that, they began cleaning the farm. The minister and Johnson both swept the ground. Together, they moved the cow down the side and made sure the farm was neat and tidy. Once the milk was warm, Johnson took a portion of the milk and set it aside for yogurt making. He then added a small amount of yogurt from the previous batch and stirred it into the milk.
This will start the yogurt making process,
he explained. He left the milk to cool and said,
by the next morning, it would be ready to set into creamy yogurt.
Johnson took the last batch of yogurt and poured it into a large pot.
Now, we will make butter from this,
he said, showing the minister. The minister stirred the yogurt as Johnson guided him.
Keep stirring until the butter starts to separate,
Johnson explained. Soon, the butter began to separate. Johnson's carefully scooping it and placing it into a big pot.
It's ready now.
As time passed, customers began to arrive. One woman asked,
How much is the milk?
Johnson replied,
$2.50 per liter.
Another customer asked,
How much for the yogurt?
Johnson smiled.
$3 per pound.
A man said,
I will take 1 pound of butter. Please.
Johnson weighed the butter and packed it up, while another customer bought a liter of milk. The customers paid, thanked him, and left with their fresh products. The minister was busy in the village. The king was frustrated due to absence of his favorite minister. One early morning, the royal servants laid out an extravagant breakfast on the dining table. Flaky butter rolls, soft scrambled eggs, buttery toast, honey, fresh fruit, pancakes with chocolate syrup, sausages, crispy bacon, cream rolls, pastries filled with rich cream, and a steaming cup of fragrant tea. There were also delicate chocolate truffles and a platter of sweet chocolate-covered strawberries. The king entered the room, sat down, and began to eat. But after only a few bites, he stood up suddenly and left, his face full of frustration. The servants exchanged worried glances. They knew that the king was disturbed by the absence of his favorite minister. The king looked around the palace and shouted,
Why is everything so messy? Didn't I tell you to keep the palace clean?
The royal servant quickly replied,
I'm sorry, Your Majesty. I will clean it up right away.
even though everything seemed fine. The king regretted his hasty decision of firing his favorite minister. He was badly missing him. So, he sent his servants to search for the minister. The royal servants arrived at the minister's house, and one of them asked his wife,
The king is called for the minister. Where is he?
She shook her head, looking worried.
I don't know. I haven't seen him. I'm really worried about him.
The royal servants visited the minister's relatives, but no one knew where he was. Everyone seemed confused and worried, as the minister had not informed anyone of his whereabouts. The royal servants returned to the palace. They told the king they couldn't find the minister. The king grew more depressed. One day, a relative visited the village and saw the minister.
Oh, you are here.
he exclaimed.
The royal servants have been looking for you. The king wants to meet you.
One day, a saint visited the king with two of his disciples. Both of them claimed that the saint was the wisest man on the earth. So, the king thought that it would be better if he appointed the saint as his next minister, who would distract his mind. But the king wasn't simply going to tell him to take the chair of his favorite minister. He decided to test his wit and see if the saint was good enough. The king asked his courtier to ask the saint extremely hard questions. If he managed to answer them correctly, then he would be appointed as the minister. The courtier asked,
Who is man's best friend on the earth?
His own good sense.
replied the saint.
Which is the most superior thing on the earth?
Knowledge.
Which is the deepest trench in the world?
A woman's heart.
What is that which cannot be regained after it is lost?
Life.
What is undying in music?
Notes.
Which is the sweetest and most melodious voice at night?
The voice that prays to God.
What travels more speedily than the wind?
Man's thought.
Which is the sweetest thing on the earth?
A baby's smile.
This way, the sage was asked many questions, and he answered each question with perfection. All courtiers as well as the king were very impressed by the saint. Then the king himself thought of putting even harder questions to him. So, he asked,
What are the necessary requirements for ruling a kingdom?
The saint answered.
Cleverness.
Another question came.
What is the greatest enemy of a king?
Selfishness.
Said the saint. Lastly, the king asked the saint if he could perform any miracles. The saint replied that he could summon the person the king wanted to meet desperately. Listening to the answer, the king got very excited, and he instantly said that he wanted to meet his favorite minister. The very next moment, the saint pulled off his fake beard and wig. Everyone was surprised, and the king couldn't stop laughing, as the saint was none other than the minister. Moral: a hasty decision can bring regret.